Well, we usually get right into recapping the Broncos' most recent outing on this show. Today, the scene from Paycor Stadium is most vivid in our minds. As of the taping of the show, Bills safety Damar Hamlin is still in critical condition after collapsing after making a tackle on Monday night. Broncos cornerback Damari Mathis, who played with Hamlin at Pittsburgh, as well as many of the Broncos, took to social media to share their support of Damar Hamlin. Zach, the football world is shaken. Of course, we are all thinking of Damar, his family, and the Buffalo Bills today.
Absolutely. A terrifying situation that happened on Monday night, and our hearts, our thoughts are with Damar, his family, his mother. So glad that she was there to be able to be by his side this entire time. And the more we learned about Damar as things unfolded, the more we just found out how good of a person he is. The toy drive that he has going on, just only in his couple first years in the league, he has that set up. And then also just the way his teammates talk about him. He gives his mom and grandma a kiss and a hug before every game. So our thoughts, and I speak for both of us, Alexis, our thoughts and hearts are with the Damar and his family today.
Yes, they are. Well, now as we transition to the Broncos' Week 17 matchup. New Year's Day, the Denver Broncos made their way to Arrowhead Stadium in hopes of snapping their 14-game losing streak to the Chiefs. With an interim head coach, a new offensive play caller, and injuries aplenty, the Denver Broncos and the Chiefs swapped the lead 5 times, but unfortunately, the Broncos were not able to pull off the upset, falling by 3, 27-24, the final score. Of course, we will touch on all 3 phases here in just a minute, but first, what were your overall impressions of the Denver Broncos as a whole with Jerry Rosburg holding the reins?
Well, I think you did a great job of pointing it out, how the Broncos were competitive in this game, swapping leads with the Chiefs 5 different times. It wasn't that they just got blown out and then they came back. No, they were competitive the entire game, and I think that's a big credit to the coaching staff, starting with, of course, Coach Rosburg, who took over less than a week before the game and was able to get this team ready to go.
Well, offensively, we learned just before kickoff that it will be Justin Outen, the Broncos offensive coordinator, calling plays for Russell Wilson and company. You know, what have we learned about what went into making that decision, and what were your impressions of Justin Outen and his play calling debut?
Well, it was very interesting the way Jerry Rosburg decided to make Justin Outen the offensive play caller for this game. He wanted Clint Kubiak next to Russell Wilson. Of course, Clint Kubiak, the quarterback coach for Russell Wilson, he said that relationship is so unique that those two need to be together on the sideline, and he didn't want someone calling the plays from the sideline. So he put Clint Kubiak down on the field next to Russell Wilson. It looked like that move worked, and then also having Justin Outen call the plays. I love what Justin Outen was able to do because he designed this offense, Alexis, around Russell Wilson and what he does best. At the beginning of the season, the phrase was let Russ cook. I think we've slowly realized, maybe even quickly realized, that the real reason that the phrase that we need to talk to is let Russ run.
Yes.
And that's what Justin Outen did. Not only letting him move around in the pocket and get out when he needed to, but also designed runs. That touchdown run, the designed one they had, was chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss, I love that. Well, with Greg Dulcich placed on IR, the Broncos looked to Albert Okwuegbunam to step up in the tight end position. Of course, we saw a little bit of a rocky start from him, but then Russell Wilson connected with Albert O for a 25-yard touchdown and the lead a little more than midway through the third. How did Albert O impact what the Broncos were able to do offensively?
Well, the Broncos didn't have Greg Dulcich put on IR just before the game, and we know how important Greg Dulcich has been, not just to this offense, but to Russell Wilson in this season so far, and Albert O stepped in and did a really good job filling those shoes. And what is Greg Dulcich? He's a very good receiving tight end. What is Albert O? What can he be? A really good receiving tight end. So the fact that he was able to step in was really encouraging, because we've thought it all offseason. If the Broncos have Greg Dulcich and Albert O out there, that is so difficult to defend. Do you put safeties on them? Do you put linebackers on them? Especially when you have other weapons on the offensive side of the ball. And if we continue to see Albert O put another good game together this week, that'll be so encouraging of what that tight end room could be next year.
Well, even without DJ Jones, Baron Browning, Randy Gregory, he was placed on IR. Ejiro Evero's defense really gave this Chiefs offense a run for its money. So what stood out about that defense performance?
Yeah, the Broncos defense did a great job making the Chiefs one-dimensional. Their running game was not able to get going throughout the entire game, and so it was all on Patrick Mahomes' shoulders, and the Broncos came up so big in the end zone. Justin Simmons coming up with that interception, that really kept the game close and kept the Broncos in it. And we've seen this time and time again over the past past couple of weeks. This defense coming up big with the big plays. Coming into this year and about midway through this year, the storyline with this defense was they're great. They just don't make those big-time plays you need. Over these past few weeks, Alexis, I mean, just look at Patrick Mahomes. He's been intercepted 4 times by this Denver Broncos defense, and that one by Justin Simmons was huge.
As far as special teams go, we knew that we could expect something different, with longtime special teams coordinator Rosberg having the opportunity to put his stamp on the Broncos special teams unit. The most obvious being Montreal, Washington. He was inactive for that game. Where did you see special teams make the biggest step in the right direction on Sunday?
Well, we saw fundamental special teams. We saw everything was sound in that game. And on top of it, you had some big plays happen. A blocked kick, and then also Alex Singleton punching the ball out. Boy, has he just been one of the brightest spots on this team, not just on special teams, but on defense as well. He was able to get the forced fumble. Eric Saubert comes up with the recovery there. That was huge. The special teams, not just not being a negative in this game, but actually being a positive was huge, and just shows how important coaching can be.
Yeah, it really was a great example of complementary football. Singleton, Saubert, that play, fantastic. And then Russell Wilson goes and scores on the very next play. So that's exactly what we want to see from the Denver Broncos, even though they did fall short in yet another one-score game. You know, I know there are no moral victories in the NFL, but there were a number of encouraging moments throughout that New Year's Day showdown in Kansas City. So in your opinion, what was the most promising moment on Sunday?
Russell Wilson. It had to be, because that's what everything rides on, not just next year, but the next many years here in Denver. And to see that Russell Wilson isn't just broken. He is fixable, as George Payton has said. And I think a key part of it that we discovered over these past few weeks, specifically with Justin Allen's play calling, is get him on the move. Don't be afraid to have Russell Wilson do designed runs. I know he took a big hit the last time the Broncos played the Chiefs, but typically Russell Wilson throughout his career is very good at avoiding big hits. And that's the reason why before this year, he only missed 3 games in his entire 10-year career before this year. So it's going to be key to let Russell Wilson be on the move and get running.
Love being able to hear how you saw it, but let's head inside the radio booth on Sunday and hear how the voice of the Broncos on KOA Radio, Dave Logan, saw this game unfold.
Back to his left, 3 to the right, single receiver left, blitz on the way, it's picked up, Mahomes steps out of pressure, rolls to his left, throws the ball, that is intercepted in the end zone. That is Justin Simmons. That is his 6th interception of the season. And the Broncos defense, with a huge play, keeps Kansas City from a score. Back on each side of Wilson in the shotgun. Wilson runs the option left side, and Russell's got a hole. 10, 5, touchdown Denver. They ran an option play with a back on each side, faking the ball right, and then Wilson with a pitch man runs left, keeps the ball, scampers in from 16 yards. Wilson under center. Do you take a shot here in 2nd and a foot? Yep, play fake. Wilson the pocket, home run ball. He's got Oguay, but touchdown Denver.
Well, there is no doubt we'd love to hear Dave Logan call a Broncos win this week as they host the LA Chargers for their final game of the 2022 season. The Broncos have yet to beat an AFC West rival this season, although they found themselves in yet another close game Week 6 in LA as the Broncos and Chargers went into overtime tied 16 apiece. But after a special teams mishap by the Broncos, the Chargers were able to get the ball back and put Dustin Hopkins in position to hit a 39-yard field goal. Zach, I'm sure the Broncos have looked at the film from that game this week. What do you hope they learned from that Week 6 overtime loss?
Well, 2 huge things. Let's start with the offensive side of the ball, and I'm going to talk about Russell Wilson again, shockingly. But remember that first quarter. I know we all remember how the game ended, but the first quarter, Russell Wilson started 10 for 10, and what was incredible is he had a completion to 9 different receivers. In 10 passing attempts, he completed a pass to 9 different receivers. He spread out the Chargers defense. The Chargers have a lot of talent on that side of the ball, but there are some holes there, and so if you spread them out, you're able to find those holes, and I think that's something the Broncos did a great job in. In the first quarter, they took that 10-0 lead, found Greg Dulcich for a touchdown, and that's what I want to see. I want to see the Broncos spread out this Chargers defense and find the holes there. Remember, Russell Wilson got hurt in that game, and it caused him to miss the following week. When Russell Wilson was healthy, he was excellent against the Chargers defense. The rest of the game, the final 3 quarters, only threw the ball 18 times, only had 5 completions. It was that first quarter that they need to learn from. And then on the defensive side of the ball, the Broncos, just like they made made the Chiefs last week, they made the Chargers completely one-dimensional. Justin Herbert threw the ball nearly 60 times. I don't care how good of a quarterback you are, it's going to be really tough to have success, and it was tough for Justin Herbert to have success. He didn't throw a touchdown pass for, I believe, the first time in his career in that game. So if the Broncos can shut down Austin Eckler, which is a lot easier said than done, but they did it in week 6. They held him to only 2.6 yards per carry. If they can do that again this week, they've got a good shot.
Okay, obviously it's been about 3 months since these two teams played, and the makeup of these teams are dramatically different at this point. So what's the biggest difference with the Chargers right now?
Now, 2 huge pieces are back for the Chargers. You have Keenan Allen, who didn't play in that game against the Broncos. Now he's healthy and back. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they have Joey Bosa, and that is someone that you cannot ignore. The Broncos are going to have to use multiple players to block him, whether it's a running back, a tight end. You cannot let Joey Bosa run free, or it's going to be a very tough game for Russell Wilson. And then put Pat Surtain on Keenan Allen, and I think you'll be okay.
And of course, the Chargers, they are on fire right now. They have won 4 straight games heading into this final game of the season. What has been the key to their success over these past 4 weeks?
2 things again. On the offensive side of the ball, Austin Eckler has been tremendous. He's the first player since LaDainian Tomlinson with the Chargers to rush for back-to-back 2 touchdown games. He is on a roll right now, so the Broncos are going to have to slow him down. The good news is, like we mentioned earlier, they did slow him down, really shut him down in week 6. So that's going to be a key one. And then on the other side of the ball, the Chargers defense has been great these last 4 weeks. Really, in the first half of the season, the Chargers defense was very underwhelming. But in the last 4 games, they've allowed 11 points per game.
Well, not only would a win this week mark Denver's first divisional win of the season, but like Coach Rosburg said on Monday, with everything that this team has been through this season, these men deserve a win. We all deserve a win, I think, here in Broncos country. So what is key for the Broncos to be able to end this season on a slightly higher note?
Well, let's see Russell Wilson play the way he did last week. He played a fantastic game outside of 1 mistake. If he can eliminate that 1 mistake, I think the Broncos beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead, and that's the most difficult game on the schedule. So if they can do that, they can beat the Chargers at home. So let's see Russell Wilson have another very efficient game where he uses his legs to create plays, and then get to Justin Herbert. The Broncos had some struggles with that against Patrick Mahomes last week, but they have had an effective pass rush, so get to Justin Herbert.
Maybe Baron Browning will be back for this game. All right, well, that will do it for our final edition of Broncos A to Z this season, as next week I will be joined by the Denver 7 crew for the January edition of Broncos Country Connected. Zach, I cannot thank you enough for your amazing insight throughout the season. I really appreciate it.
I've loved it, Alexis.
That's been great. Also, a very big thank you to Austin Brink for capturing the Broncos season from the sideline in stunning fashion week in and week out, as well as Dave Logan for allowing us inside the booth with him. For Zach Stevens and our entire Broncos broadcast crew, thank you so much for watching Broncos A to Z. We will leave you with some of the most eye-catching still images from Arrowhead Stadium, snapped by team photographer Gabriel Christus.